The hour of 5 o'clock has arrived, and I will call the planning board meeting to order. You want to,
Give me 1 second.
yeah, and, is the Zoom up and going and people are in if they're wanting to be in? Oops. There we go. All right, so we got, does anybody, in, on Zoom and the,
Nobody else isn't there yet.
nobody's there yet, okay. But it is working, yeah. All right. Roll call attendance,
Okay, Scott. Absent. Lee.
Present.
Catherine.
Here.
Igor.
Present.
Margaret. Here. Jerry. Absent. Bonnie.
here. And Scott, absent. So we do have a quorum, there's 1, 2,
We do have a
3,
quorum,
we have a quorum. And Jerry was intending to, participate via,
Here's
Zoom, so he can be participating via Zoom. So we do have a quorum. We want to review our requirements, for joining meetings via Zoom. That issue has come up, we talked about it a little bit. Oh, here comes Scott, so he's joined the meeting. So that's something that, there was a discussion on last meeting. And, we have to be consistent, of course, with our rules and regulations, so maybe, we don't want to make any changes or change our attitude or process now, but maybe have a subcommittee look at our rules. And the thought is, do we want to continue with Zoom? If we do continue with Zoom, can you be on Zoom and not identify yourself? Can you be on Zoom and remain anonymous? But if you want to speak, for instance, you have to identify yourself. We need clear guidelines and rules for it.
So, if I may, in our rules of procedure, it really doesn't say anything about having public participation via Zoom. Zoom was established in the Zoom part of the meetings during an emergency. That was COVID. There's no longer an emergency. And more and more boards are moving away from it. I know that. But the only, in our rules of procedure, the only electronic remote participation is for remote planning board members, and it's only if it is an emergency, and then the planning board member has to identify what the emergency is,
Right.
and it needs to be in the minutes. Now, if there's an accommodation that needs to be, and somebody asks us,
Right,
can you do a Zoom meeting? Or allow me to participate by Zoom?
right,
I don't have an objection if they follow those same rules, that they're
Right.
identified, and also they say what the emergency is.
right,
Otherwise, we're a small community. And, I say small, I don't mean in terms of number of people, but the actual geography. Kath and I live further away than anybody else from this building. And, pretty much if we can get here, other people can
Right.
get here unless there's an emergency. Yeah,
right,
and so I'm actually opposed to continuing with the Zoom meetings until we have a policy, because nowhere does it say in our rules of procedure that we should have it or that it identifies it. So for me, if it's not in it, it's like permissive zoning, right? For those towns who have zoning, if it's not in there, then it's not
yeah,
there.
it's not detailed enough. And it says if you do want to make a change to the rules of procedure, you just decide what the change is you want to make, and then you wait 2 meetings. You have to, like, announce it tonight that you're considering making X change, and the next meeting, and then you'd vote on, the change or the clarification of the rules of procedure.
We have never adopted Zoom as part of our rules of procedure. Now, additional to that, there's some privacy issues associated with that. And what if, and I'm going to use a hypothetical, nobody likes hypotheticals, but what if somebody who is a victim of domestic violence and has a protective order against somebody, and they've moved here anonymously, but has to come before the planning board or the select board, but in this case, the planning board, and somebody sees them here on Zoom, somebody anonymous, that's a problem. So it's another reason to not have it.
I'd like to push back a little bit on that, just because there are people who are housebound that can't get here. And it allows people to participate as a town member without having to be present in the room.
Remember, if there's an emergency, if that's an emergency, then we can identify it in our rules of procedure. It's not in there right now.
So in your, in a hypothetical situation, somebody has something that they were interested in what we're talking about tonight. They're housebound, they can't get here, but they want to participate.
They can let us know.
Do they send an email in? Is this what we're going to develop as in our rules?
Right.
Email or call.
Okay.
I think the town attorney, we've gone through this a lot at the select meetings too, is that more and more boards are getting away from Zoom
Yes.
and Zoom participation. And that they just record the meetings, if you want to look at them later, they can.
A lot of them don't even record it, they just have a meeting
It'll
notes.
a lot don't even record it, but like you're saying, it happened during the thing and people are getting more and more people are getting away from it.
Right, and you know, it's the problem is that there's a sense of anonymity when you're up there, it's like social media and people putting things on Facebook. I hate this person because of that, I hate that person because of this, and it's people act differently when they're anonymous.
I disagree with the anonymity, because everyone that comes into this room has to sign in.
They don't have to though, they're
No,
asked
they don't
to.
have to.
No,
They're asked to.
what we've done is, on this, like, we're
They don't
gonna
have to.
continue Zoom, I guess, but
Yeah.
they have to identify themselves.
When
In other words,
they speak.
If they want to.
If they want to get into the room at all.
There,
If they want to get into the room at all, they have to identify themselves, otherwise they can watch the recording the next day.
Right, okay.
a couple of pieces of information that we should be aware of. We are currently, as a town, sharing one Zoom account with separate lines set up for each of the boards. So any policy that's adopted by any board in the town would apply to all of the accounts in the way that.
Well, we can
That-
make our
yeah, I
own
was gonna say,
account.
that-
We can
that-
make our own
that's just a
account.
technical
Yeah,
thing.
we can
Yeah.
make our own account.
Technology, we can
Yeah.
work around that.
Right,
I mean,
it
I-
also affects the finances.
I think the Zoom thing, you know, people coming in and appearing at the meeting and I don't know, I'm against that.
Anyway, that's.
I'm against it too.
Because it's not, mostly because it's not identified in our rules of procedure. If it's not there, then it's not there.
It's in there, it doesn't say Zoom.
No, it only says it for a planning board member.
Talks
It doesn't say it for the
about-
public,
It does say it for the public
does, for the
during
public.
a hearing.
public hearing.
Yeah,
But
during a
does
hearing.
it say electronic during?
Yes, it's got language,
Get over here.
it doesn't, it
It doesn't specify specifically electronic, but it says anyone
Yeah.
who wishes to address the board during the hearing.
That to me is not clear that it's good, because it doesn't identify any, there is no place that says, like here in the meeting, it says, it talks about electronic participation. It doesn't say that in that section. And so, because it doesn't say it, it's not there. And it does say electronic participation in the other section. So it's clear that it was defined at one point. I disagree with that.
A member of the public board may participate in a meeting other than by attendance in person at the location of the meeting, only when such attendance is not reasonably practical. So they would have to make an argument that this wasn't
And it's
practical
gotta
to
be
get
noted
here.
in the meeting minutes as well.
Yeah,
Right, and you asked before the meeting.
Right.
But a select meeting, if I can't be there, I'll let everybody know, they know, you know, I'm away or something like that, but I'm gonna Zoom in. As long as you have a quorum that's physically present, it's okay.
Right, and unless there's an emergency.
Right, exactly, yeah.
so it does allude to, it doesn't say Zoom, but it alludes to, public participation, via.
That's my feel.
So,
I agree.
if we're gonna make any changes to our procedures, we have to announce it twice. I mean, we can't change anything tonight.
Let's announce it.
If somebody wants to make a change, announce what you think the change should be, and that's week number 1, and then week number 2 is the next time, and then we would vote on it, whether we wanna make that change or not. Did you have one you wanna,
I would like to keep our rules and procedures the same, which do not allow.
We don't disallow it though.
we
I
don't
think
disallow it, yeah.
I think by not defining it, it does, and maybe the attorney has to look at that.
Because it doesn't define in person either, it just says
Yeah.
attendance.
Well, then I will make the motion to,
It needs
not
clarification.
allow Zoom,
It needs
any
clarification.
electronic participation by
Anyone.
anyone.
When I read this, I thought, well, it was allowed, because it talks about, people, needing to identify themselves and have a reason why they couldn't be here. And needs to, if they wanna talk, identify themselves. So I think we need to clarify it, and it seems to be not,
But if we
100%
have to
clear.
announce, if we have to announce
right,
a motion, that I would put it that way.
okay. We have a motion on the floor. You wanna restate what your motion is?
To disallow Zoom or
Okay.
electronic participation.
Okay,
Of
Except in
meetings,
emergency.
yeah, except in emergency,
yeah,
Or without prior approval.
no, just, except in emergency, and in that case, it would have to be part of the minutes what the emergency was.
and does that include members of the board
Yes,
too?
I wouldn't change that,
Both members of the board and members of the public?
correct.
Okay. Does everybody understand the motion that, Lee is making? Does anybody want to second it?
I can second it.
Okay, Igor seconds it. Do we want to take a vote?
The vote would be to visit it for the next 2 weeks, correct?
Yeah.
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 Okay, so we don't want to, that's right,
You
we
can't vote-
don't,
you
yeah,
can't vote
we
to
don't
approve
want,
it, right.
okay, we don't want to vote now. All right, that's on the table, for a vote in,
2 months.
yeah, 2 months. Okay,
What about recording meetings?
I don't care about that.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, we're gonna be talking about,
Yeah.
you want to record them, have them on the website the next day, or, I mean, people do like that.
some towns just record for the purpose of writing the minutes, and then they
Yes, they do.
destroy it.
Yes, that's true.
correct.
Some do that. We keep it, you know, it's there, if somebody
I
wants
guess
to
throw
listen.
it out there.
Does anybody have any feelings about, recording and having it be available, you know,
You're talking about audio recording now.
audio? Yes, audio,
Position on audio recording.
okay, no position on that, all right. And do our rules of procedure allow that now? Let's say we do away with the video, does it say anything at all about the audio?
Well, I think they have a video recording is what it is.
Yeah,
We do as a video.
all right,
I think the attorney's saying more and more, towns are getting away from Zoom meetings at this point.
right,
What if the attorney wants to participate in a meeting and can't get here?
You would have to identify it as emergencies, why she can't be here.
Well, she can just contact the town.
Correct.
That would be the language we.
I mean, that's our
discussed
choice.
further.
Yeah, that's our choice.
and an applicant, would we say, yeah, let's just
The
say,
applicant should be
Yeah.
here. Yeah, I would think.
what if the applicant can't make it, you know?
I got another meeting.
Right.
You know, do we just move over it and save it for the next meeting, or do they, can they participate?
Well, I think they have an emergency and they can't get here.
Covered, yeah.
Okay, all right,
So that's a member of the public.
all right, there'll be more discussion next month and a decision after that. So we will continue as we are for now, and continue the public hearing and discussion for a major subdivision, location, map lot 2270111, Merrill Lake Road, property of Hubbard Hills LLC. It's a 6.7 acre lot to be subdivided into 5 lots. You skipped over election of officers. Oh, I did? On this, the election of officers weren't on this. Oh, on this one. Oh, okay, all right. All right, election of officers. We had a town meeting last month, and, the two members that ran got re-elected and got sworn in. So annually, we choose our chair, our vice chair, our officers for the ensuing year. Does anybody have any nominations or not? Any nominations for chair, vice chair?
So I have thoughts, but I don't, no, I have thoughts, but not a nomination, but I'd rather hold those till after,
Okay,
and you and I already talked about it.
yep, okay. So do we want to, hold it until the next meeting or later on in the meeting or,
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay,
Yep,
alrighty,
let's get these guys going.
yeah, let's get.
okay. Continuation of public hearing and discussion for a major subdivision. I already read it, Lake Road, property of Hubbard Hills LLC.
Good evening, Madam Chair. The record Joe Besnell from Hancock Associates. Representing Ken McNichol, the owners of the property. When we were here last, we had discussed the potential for a waiver to have more than two driveways, two house lots on a single driveway. That waiver failed the vote. So we have revised the plan back to three driveways for the 5 lots. So compliant with the maximum of two driveways per. The second issue that the board wanted was to receive input on the plan from the road agent and the fire department and the police chief. And I believe you have correspondence from them on the issues. They did receive the revised plan, and the road agent had asked us to further move the driveway for lots 2-4 and 2-5 up the road further to the west. So we did that. So we've got that driveway, the driveway for 2-1, and then the shared driveway for 2-2 and 2-3. So those changes have been made. That does improve the site distance. We do note the removal of any vegetation that would and some minor regrading to facilitate the site distance. Looking to the right when you come out of those driveways. So we've made those changes and had those discussions with town staff and gotten those their comments in writing, and I think that's the homework that we have for since the last meeting.
Okay, the road agent and the, fire chief signed
This one is.
on the plan, which is a little unusual. Usually we get a letter on their letterhead, but,
It's one from John.
they signed, right on the plan. And yes, we did get, some follow-ups after, but on the plan, the, fire chief, you want to read what it says?
It says, approve these plans, Chief WFD John McKay. And 4/7/25 is the date. And then on 4/8/25, approve these driveway plans, and I'm assuming that's Mike Walsh's signature.
That's.
Okay.
And then there's an email from John as well.
An email from John and then the
Email from John.
email from Jeffrey.
Right,
from the-
Or John
The one
to
that has the
the
map.
Bailey,
Oh.
saying that he approved the 5 house lots of the driveway.
And an email from Kevin.
Yeah.
And Kevin, yeah, we got one,
They wasn't sure.
we got a follow-up, from John McKay in writing,
Yes.
as well as signature on the plan. We didn't get a follow-up from Mike. We got the signature on the plan. Okay, and we did get, a letter from, Kevin. All right. What does the board think of the deficiencies of the representations made by the
I have a couple of
town
questions.
officials?
I like the waiver in the first one, but actually,
I just a couple of questions. So, this right here, this right of way right here that comes in.
Yep.
The setback, to the garage is only 15 feet, and our subdivision regulations say 30 feet from the right of way.
It's not a right,
Oh,
it's a property.
no, this is to get to this house,
Right, but it's not a right of way, it's a
so
property.
he has no right of way to get here?
He has an easement.
What's the difference?
A right of way is when you create a new road that creates frontage.
Okay. So,
So this,
Okay.
the frontage for these lots,
yeah,
is on their way.
gotcha.
So this is not a right of way.
So these are not rights of way?
No, they're
Okay, that would
they're
be,
portions of the lot
yeah,
that also serve in some cases as, access easements.
right. And so this is 15 feet from the property line there.
Right.
Okay, so for our parking spaces, we require 20 feet.
So, yeah, we'd have to move that.
Okay, so that,
Reconfigure that house
Yeah.
so you're saying the garage is a parking space? So
no, we have to have external parking spaces, 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit.
the garages don't count.
No, because
No.
it has to be external.
So that, we'd have to.
I didn't see any others that were that
Yeah.
close.
We'd have to reconfigure
Yeah.
that house to get that one.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that's 15 right there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if you'd swear to off.
I think we just have to, we've got different style houses, so we can reconfigure the house, but.
Yeah, anyway, just,
And again, the board's not improving the house is.
no, but we have to make sure that the setbacks are correct.
Well,
Part
we
of our
have to,
subdivision
when we present for a building permit, we would have to, the final house would have to meet those setbacks, and your point's well taken, that if it's to the face of the garage, then it needs to be more than 15, and then 20 to be able to facilitate
Because we have to have the gate laws.
the parking space.
And the other question that I had, was about the easement for the fire department. And, the one that goes right here.
Between the lots.
Right, okay, so when you establish an easement and you transfer that by deed, or it goes by deed, I suppose, right? And I'm a novice at this, I'm learning. If that is not maintained and there's a fire and this house burns down and the town has this easement, but they're not maintaining it, is there liability for the town?
Not the town's responsibility to maintain.
Yeah, but if my house is here and it burned down and the town has this easement, it seems that there's gonna be a risk of a lawsuit there. Because there's not, I think the easement is here, right? Not all the way through here. So I'm concerned with that. I would suggest that.
Can you repeat that last?
Yeah, so it looked like, and I just got the stuff on the easements like 10 minutes ago, and I just scanned it quickly. It looks like this is the easement for the fire department, correct?
No, the fire department would have the rights in all of this.
Is that what this says? Yeah.
One piece of it spells out who has rights to the easement, access to the easement. The other document spells out who is responsible for maintaining.
Okay, so
that.
we got this 10 minutes ago. And I'm concerned about the risk to the town from a liability if the town is not maintaining it. And there's a fire. I mean, if my house burns down and the fire department has an easement, but they can't get to it, I'm gonna point a finger at somebody.
Right, well, you gotta understand first the purpose of the easement. The purpose of the easement is to be able to have the fire trucks loop around. It's not providing.
I get that.
Right, it's not providing access. If there's a fire in this house, and the fire department needs to come in, then they come in, this way. and access the house. If this was for some reason not maintained or blocked with snow or what have you, it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have access. It means they don't have the ability to loop back around and leave the site. So this was important for the fire chief in lieu of any kind of a cul-de-sac or a T-turnaround or an area to get that looped, access. So this is no different than if, it's actually better than if this was just a single lot and there was a house back here and you had a long driveway. Fire department still has access to it. They still have, they have the ability to come and go as they do on any private lot. If they have to come to a house, they have the ability to do this. So this part of the design was only in discussions with the fire chief to be able to, make it easier for them to, once they come to the site, they can loop back around. Or if they need to do a wellness checks, they can just loop around or whatever that be.
Yeah,
But I don't see, just like, well, if a private driveway wasn't maintained,
then,
and you couldn't get to a house, who, is it the town's fault that the
No.
private driveway is not?
No, but they don't, but the town doesn't have a specific easement deeded to them.
Right.
So my driveway is very long.
Mhm.
And if I don't maintain it, my house burns down, that's my problem.
Right.
Okay, this is completely different. This is a new subdivision and it's an easement that's giving it the easement to the town. I just want to make sure.
Well, I would-
I want to alert the lawyer to just say, no, there's no liability.
No,
We can have Laura look at it.
No, and we can do that, and it may be the simple fact that the town does not need explicit rights to the easement. That it's more important that the easement exists in common rights and common responsibility to maintain it. Because again, the fire department has the right to come to your house and drive down your driveway, and they don't have an explicit easement to this.
So we'll have her take a look at it.
Sure.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
all right. let's
Lee,
We
take a
have,
look.
we have the language on.
If you want to frame the question,
Yep.
because you've got a better mind than
Yep.
me.
No.
Email it to me and
I will.
I'll tweak it and send
Okay.
it on to Laura.
Perfect.
Okay.
So we'll have Laura look at that. Any other questions on the part of the board, any other,
They're just waiting on septic approval on that.
yeah, where are those at, the septic in?
Subdivision, we're waiting on subdivision. From
Okay.
the,
And any idea when you're going to get that?
we're hopeful that we'll have that within a couple of weeks. It's been
Okay.
delayed for a number of reasons and.
They're always on.
All right, because we'll need that.
Right, we would need to, be able to put the safety subdivision number on the final plan prior to the
Right.
board endorsing.
Right.
So, we would look to, add that to the Mylar before presentation to the board for endorsement.
Okay,
So I think what you're looking for now maybe is you're looking for that, we're okay with this the way it is, if the legal stuff is okay, the house plan setback is okay, so that they go forward with their plans, so when they come to the next meeting, they might be able to have them.
I think
I
we're,
haven't talked to them, but
I think
if
we're a
was
ways
them,
from there. We have to deal with the waiver issue. That's one issue.
No, the way.
No, that's gone,
That's gone.
because they put
Was
it,
denied.
they put the driveways back the way they were.
I
Yeah, you
agree with
denied,
that.
you denied the waiver.
So the waiver-
Failed.
It failed. It didn't pass, however. It tied.
Right.
It
so
tied.
It's a dead duck, they just redid the
Yeah,
plans
yeah,
because they
It
didn't get
tied.
the waiver.
We no longer.
Sure. They redid these plans because they didn't get the waiver.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm seeing the same thing as you with with the review and approval or edit about the easements from Laura
Right.
in conjunction with the setback.
Being correct,
Being in accordance with our subdivision rules.
and that would more come in as a building.
Right, that would be
right.
with the next plan, with the building plans that I'm seeing that there aren't any more.
Yeah, I don't see anything, I mean, other than that.
No, I'm just saying, I think that's what
Yeah.
they're hoping
Yeah.
for. you know. We can't vote on it, but necessarily, but.
Just a question. That, the well that serves, I'm assuming it serves in a adjacent lot, it's right on the property line? Yeah.
Yeah, we physically looked.
Yeah.
And we've discussed the matter with.
I don't have any other questions.
I don't either.
Do you have any, Margaret?
So as of the last meeting, we hadn't yet decided whether or not we had a complete application sufficient to.
Right. And we don't, I mean, because of the,
Yeah, until you
we
get
gotta
the
talk to
TS.
the lawyer, and,
Right.
and the subdivision approvals. Um, I guess I'm still, puzzled with the fact that when we took the vote on the driveway issue versus the street issue, it didn't pass. It tied, but it didn't pass.
Well, that's why they went back and put in the driveways.
Right,
on.
because the way they did it, it needs.
I personally like the way right here with just the one road, but that's my personal opinion. We told them to go back and put in
Right.
driveways,
Right.
and that's what they did.
Yeah, my position was that the waiver, there's too many unintended consequences.
No,
Right, so
we can-
that's why we're back to the.
we can disagree, it's okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's okay, but I mean, the bottom line is they did what.
They did, right.
They did what we
voted.
asked them to do,
What we
the
voted
board
on,
asked
yeah.
them to do.
All right, does anybody else have any other point they wanna make, or any, let's make sure, either, we leave it just like this and they come back the next time, or, many times we feel that, that we shouldn't carry it on 2 more issues, 3 more issues. You know, I don't know if we're ready to be sure that we have the complete list of things we need. I mean, there's plans that you need to include, like drainage and
I think they've got,
soil,
Okay.
that,
they've got everything.
Uh, do we wanna go through the checklist and make sure they have everything?
Yeah.
Sure,
Are we ready to,
we're not approving
Consider
it
it-
tonight until they get the final.
Okay.
DES approval.
Right, we have to get the DES, we have to get feedback from Laura, we have to get
Correct.
this house moved a few feet.
anything
Besides that,
else?
I can't
But
find
I think
it.
the thing is, I think if we want them to do something else or change it, it'd be only fair to let them know.
Not,
Because
yes,
it's-
that's,
It's, yeah, this has been. the-
you know, that's
meeting.
what I'm saying, if there are other things that any one of us are looking for, it would only be fair to bring it up.
Just
tonight.
another dumb question, does DES, when they do the approvals, do they look at the well locations and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so the one that has the safety zone or whatever you wanna call it, radius, and it's underneath the building, they're gonna say yes to that? Okay.
It's part of the, their main reason they've been slow to act was the well.
Okay, and the.
Doesn't mean they're gonna approve it.
Right, so, right, so the next question I have, so that the pipe for the effluents would go through that radius, to get to the septic on lot 2-1. Is that unusual?
No.
Okay. Just questions in my head.
Yeah, sure.
All right, does the board have anything else they want to mention? The public, anybody in the audience have things you wanna ask, or points you wanna make, or things you wanna question? Yes, will you identify yourself, please?
Joyce Abigail, a butter. I, have been attending all of the meetings and perhaps my recollection is wrong, but I believe that the last meeting that you requested sign off from the road agent, the fire department, and the police department.
Yep.
And I've heard sign off from the fire department and the road agent. Did the police department
Yes.
sign off as well?
Yes.
Actually, yeah, I wouldn't call it a sign off. He was non-committal.
Right. You gotta be busy.
Then we have no objection to your proposal.
Right, he said, I reviewed the drawing, the police department has no objection to your proposal, I can't say approve it, and he goes on with, feelings about it. But he said he does not object. He said, as we discussed, I can't say that I approve, 4 driveways within 150 feet feels busy, and 5 residential units on such a small piece of property is contrary to the current arrangement of this neighborhood. In my opinion, you may be better served by reducing the number of homes and installing the roads. Rights of way are difficult to manage, he should have said easements, are difficult to manage and often become a point of contention among neighbors and service workers, resulting in legal issues. Decreasing the number of homes but increasing the size to reach the same margin may serve you and this community better. Respectfully, Kevin Law, Chief of Police.
Okay. Well, my second point was exactly that. I go by this every day. There's a deep curve in the road and a very steep embankment here. To line all these driveways up right in a row, I think makes for a very dense environment, and someone who's clearing that curve, and I don't know if they're going to even be able to see somebody coming out of this driveway, but if they can, they may not be paying attention that there's another driveway right after that, and another driveway right after that, and another driveway right after that. And I think that these 5 units are very dense for this area. We've been dancing around the issue ever since the application was filed. Mr. Cuneo on this side is deeply concerned about flooding on his property from this side. I regularly have flooding on my side here, and I think that a less dense subdivision, even subtracting 1 house, would do wonders for our neighborhood, for the people who live around here, and for the community.
Okay, anybody else in the audience have any input?
Chief agrees with me.
Yeah, I would say somebody out on 161 Mary,
Mm-hmm.
some of the other abutters. So I tend to agree that, police need to not give he did not commit to an approval. And I think that's the consensus on the abutters, so while we respect the right to buy and develop the property, it seems there's enough questions about the size of the development and the hoops that we're jumping through to get the 5 in, that, I think, reconsideration of the number of properties on the land makes sense.
Okay. One comment that I learned is that on driveways, it's the Board of Selectmen decision as to whether they're going to issue a building permit for a house. It was suggested by the municipal association attorney that given it looks like that you may end up with driveways, not streets, and that it's the selectmen's authority to approve building permits on driveways, that it would serve the planning board well to get an opinion from the Board of Selectmen as to whether they are going to approve the building permit on these 5 lots before the planning board makes any determination that they're aligned for buildings.
As long as they're meeting the setbacks and doing all things properly. And Mike, the road agent, approves of the driveways, I think, I'm speaking for myself, I would think we would give them the permits.
Will you ask the board, will you have the board do you want to ask the board, or are you just making that representation
No,
on behalf of the
I'm
board?
not making, I'm making for me. I'm saying
Yeah.
for me, I am not representing the board when I say that.
Uh,
I'm just saying, usually we would go along with Mike's recommendation, that's what I would say.
Can you run it by the board? Because that was one thing that was suggested, that given, this
We have the actual
unique
driveway maybe if we could get the
unique
driveway
situation.
permit applications in, so we could actually look at them at our next meeting, would be good, and then we could cross that bridge at that time, and we could talk to Mike before, if Mike approves it and so forth.
Yeah, I think that would be a good,
We could
good,
actually, have that done by this next meeting.
a good thing to do for us, for the planning board to have in their file. That the authority that issues building permits looked at it also, along with the fire chief and the public, works and the police chief. They looked at it also, because they're gonna play a role with this, and they're gonna be the ones that say yes, as you said, say yes to the houses later.
I just said, we
Yeah.
tend to agree if all three
Right.
of those guys agree, we're probably going to agree.
Okay.
I would agree. I can't speak for them.
Okay, all right,
Madam Chair, I just don't wanna get caught in the catch-22 where we apply for driveway permits, but the decision of the Board of Selectmen is contingent upon the lots being actually created. Because the sequence of matters is usually we get a lot, and then we have to.
Very, very good.
it is,
Obviously, we'll do it, we'll do the draft, driveway applications to the Board of Selectmen, and possibly they could.
We could
They-
prove
they
it
could-
contingent on this plan being approved.
yeah,
And,
no,
yeah, knowing that it's sensitive, we appreciate that.
Yeah,
yeah,
totally. But, other than that, we rest on the fact that we are in compliance.
Right.
We are in compliance with the lot configuration, the lot loading, the lot that which will ultimately be, will be verified through DES's approval. They look at the lot loading, the soils, topography, all of those matters. Again, there is, as you know, there's no zoning, so we're not trying to fit into a lot frontage and area scenario.
Right.
And then all of the requirements of the subdivision regulations that we are compliant with, including the only no more than 2 lots per driveway. So, I don't, although I understand where the police chief is coming from and understand where the neighbors are coming from, I don't know that it's necessarily this board's place to play into that kind of a emotional or discretionary consideration. That you have rules, we meet the rules, and we ask the board to act on the 5 lots.
yeah, whether you have zoning or not, we have subdivision regulations, which is our authority. And we
Everything
need-
is done, then we have.
We
to say
just
yes.
need
That's
to
right.
make sure that those are followed.
And DES may not like 5 lots. They may have something to say.
Well, they're again, they have very specific rules, and they're looking for.
Sure.
They're looking towards making sure that we are compliant with a myriad of all their rules. And if we are, it's again, not discretionary or
It is what it is.
subjective, it is, we
Right.
meet all the rules.
It is what it
Here is
is.
your.
yes.
Yeah, and that's how it works, and, we need to know that, the state regulations, permits are gonna come through. We have no authority over those as to whether it's a yes or no, but we need to receive them for our
But
record.
I'm happy to bring it up and, I'll
Okay,
grab one of the plans at the next selectmen's meeting, and
And I'll get the question for the attorney
Yeah, and I'll
by
go-
tomorrow sometime.
I'll throw it on our next agenda for, selectmen's meeting,
so do we,
just to discuss,
When is that?
next Tuesday.
is there
It's just
anything,
gonna be a general quick discussion.
is there anything else that we can think of at this point? So we will continue the hearing. And this is the notice that it will be continued to the next meeting, which is the date of the next meeting. See,
May 12th.
May 12th at 5 o'clock, so, anybody, that received an initial notice, we're putting you on notice now. You don't have to send out another mailing. You're on notice that this will be continued until the May meeting. Anything else anybody has on this? Okay, we'll continue it to the next meeting. Yep.
Do we want to keep this, or do we want that?
Yeah, can we keep-
This is the signed one.
You can keep everything I've given you.
I think we need,
I'll bring this with me then to the flood.
we need to, oh, another thing, you did give us the agreement, the driveway.
Yeah.
So we can look at that. We'll look at that.
With that, yeah, leave you with the, you asked about the lot.
Yeah.
Let me leave you with a copy of just that. You want me to just bring it back?
So Lee, if you can,
I would leave it.
Yeah, I'll send it.
I'd leave it. I'd leave it.
Sometime.
all right, no, don't be sorry.
Let me see what it looks like.
I'll have my lawyer look at it. You talk to my lawyer.
She's got a bunch of stuff working out.
No, I'll.
And one about where it's left, you know.
We don't want you to, walk off and, throw away the original plan.
Excuse me, she's wondering if you can have a letter from the police chief. It's this public.
I think that's, yeah, definitely.
You want to see what this looks like before I roll it up?
Let me see.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
just lot line.
We need to keep a copy of the original. You throw away some of the in-between,
We'll keep it organized.
Gyration.
Well, a lot of those.
so you don't, get mixed up and the wrong one gets approved. But we do need the original one. All right, yeah, leave us that one.
And then I'll leave you with these
Yeah,
copies.
yeah.
So these are, yeah, these are all the same.
All right, I'm gonna take a couple of those.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
That way I'll have those.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
As I was driving here, there was a car parked on the side of the road.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave them with that.
All right.
I get it.
The approval of the March 3rd minutes. Okay, second, any corrections, errors, or omissions? They were thorough. They were a book.
You do a great job.
Do you want this rolled inside out or back out?
We usually have the map on the inside.
I don't know where the elastic is.
We don't, fold them, so the signature page, so, yeah, okay. Got that. All right, we've got,
Sorry? Yes,
Putting in the minutes.
yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
Igor,
Yes, you weren't here.
Scott,
Oh, I was there. You weren't on here. I was here.
He was sitting in my seat last time, so I know he was here.
he did,
Jerry never made it.
he never made it, okay,
Why
just wanted to make sure. Minutes, yes,
Margaret, yes. Tony,
yes.
okay.
All right, we got some minutes approved. Report of offices, Selectmen, you have anything you want to say?
The only, you know, we're working on, I'm glad, a bunch of other things, public works, but the, one thing that we're doing, and I don't know if you wanna, where you wanna go with it. We're gonna discontinue, putting any new, notices in newspapers. It's not required, it costs a couple $1,000s every time we put out a bid, somebody to bid on something. So we're going to, put out RFP still, we're gonna put it on the website, and there's a couple, bulletin boards we're gonna put it on, and we have to post it in 2 public places. So that we're gonna just continue the practice of, putting things in the paper. And I don't, you know, I know the town doesn't pay for when, we put out subdivision notices, but right now, our regulation says that they have to post it in the newspaper.
Right now, it says that, yeah.
And I'm not saying right or wrong, I'm just throwing it out there. Is that
It's
where?
a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's pretty antiquated.
Right,
Yeah.
Nobody's reading.
No.
No, And I did talk to Steve Buckley at the Municipal Association about that, because I've heard the selectmen were discontinuing that. And we just have to make sure that there's two places.
Two
and
public places,
Two places that are accessible.
Here and the town hall is what is traditionally,
that's what.
Yeah.
Right. They have to be accessible to people. Make
Yeah,
sure that we
such cases in
choose.
this place.
That
was brought up.
He said we can post, yeah, we can put it in the barber shop and everywhere, but
You
we
can't
have
go in the
to have
post office.
two. Margaret and I were talking about it when we heard about that, change on the part of the selectmen, and I don't know if you had like an information kiosk or something, you know, a bulletin board, or like a town bulletin board,
Well, we have it all right up front here on the doors, and that would still be there and everything.
Yeah. some sort of a, because not everybody, is good about getting on the website and internet. And well, there are people that get their local free papers and they're going to think that
I think
the
it's posted like
information's
that
in
for
there.
kids to
Well-
get the bank a lot.
well, yeah.
Yeah, but it has to be in Woodstock.
We don't have a bank in which.
We don't have a
Oh,
bank,
there's no bank, okay.
and they won't let you do it at the post office.
Gotcha.
The other
Thorn,
place.
Thorn
The
does it,
dump would be the other place, and that's in Lincoln.
yeah, Thorn does it at the town hall and the dump.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Is the town website considered a public place?
yes, but it, no, it still has to be
Physical.
physically posted.
Right.
Physical places.
Physical.
We don't have the school, can't do it there,
No,
so,
no.
the
No.
town hall,
It's usually
Here.
what we do, just to cover us.
Facebook,
It's not physical.
it's not physical.
I mean, it's not a big,
Could do
I'm
it-
just bringing up,
could
I
do it
mean,
at the Montauk.
we don't have to change it, but it's just an
Yeah,
expense.
now,
Yeah.
so do we want to, vote? There's another thing that we're going to throw out there that when we
Yes.
change our rules of procedure. Are we going to, make a motion to
yes,
consider dropping the newspaper
yes,
posting?
yes.
I'll make a motion. to
I'll second it.
consider-
And that'll run the 2 weeks, just
Together.
2 months, just
Yeah.
like.
I'm one of the few
Okay.
people who still read the newspaper,
Yeah.
the official newspaper every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so that will go along with the 2 months
So,
consideration.
Are we voting on that or 2 months?
Yes.
The
consideration?
2 months.
Two months.
Let's consider it.
Yeah, we're going to have to do the 2 months, because it's in the rules of procedure,
It is, you have to come out.
has to come out. It says, it specifically says
Definitely,
newspaper,
I read it last week.
Yeah.
Definitely says.
so we have to change the rules of procedure there.
Okay.
We're gonna revisit the election of officers
Yes,
for discussion.
yep, we can do that. What we have left is, deciding on committees that we want for this year. I don't think there's any reports from the other committees. Just the blasting notice correspondence and forming any committees we want and the, election of officers. And, Lee and I had a discussion, and so did Margaret and I. And, I really 1,000% get the thought that, there's a lot of institutional knowledge in my noggin. 52 years. I've been a town official, probably more than that. I was first elected in 1970 as town clerk. That was the very first one. So I'm going on a gazillion years of having that. And there has never been a time when I was not an elected official, continuous from one to the other to the other. And I've been planning board for quite a while. I'm many, 30, 40, 20, a long time. I go back to prior to, subdivision regulations, prior to the cussed word condominium. I go back to, way back to, I was part of the board that, worked on the subdivision regulations initially, and first,
When we met in the bottom of the White Mountain Attractions building, and Don Showalter was
I was here when Don Showalter, Don Showalter was,
a few years off, but he was.
Don Showalter was, we haven't had very many chairs. In all those years, we had Don Showalter, we had Dan Barry, we had,
Don Showalter ran off with a woman.
yeah,
Resigned.
Don Showalter. Don Showalter got into a little bit of trouble with,
He
but
did.
he was our chair for a while. Bill Albright for a long,
Oh, yeah.
long time. Dan Barry for a long time. We've had a history of chairs lasting a long time. You know, it hasn't been every 2 years you get
But
a new
maybe,
one.
maybe fresh blood's good too.
And so, Lee and I talked quite frankly, and there wasn't any argument between him and I. There wasn't any hard feelings or any bent out of shape noses or anything. And
Would you like me to tell my thoughts were? on that?
yeah, you
So,
tell.
so, you know, when I came on the board, the only reason that I decided to run for the planning board was because I saw a weakness, and the weakness was that there wasn't, that for a period of 12 months, a quorum was only seated 6 times or something like that. And it was a big weakness. It was a huge weakness. And so I decided to get on the board, and I'm on the board, and I think we have a terrific board.
We do, we
And
have
I
a
think
terrific board.
leadership is very competent.
Yep.
Okay, I think Bonnie does a great job. I think Margaret does a great job. What I see for weakness, though, is that there's not a rotation in, every municipal board that I've sat on, there's been a rotation of leadership, just an informal rotation.
Sure.
And the reason for that is to make sure that there's not just one point of contact forever and ever. We have that problem right now on the supervisor of the checklist. Barbara's leaving, okay, or has left, and she had all the knowledge, and now it's face, Kath, and I. It's the same thing, that one person leaves, and you're like, oh my goodness, they've been doing this. How long have you been recently? How long have you been chair?
Probably 30 years.
Yeah, so, so.
Maybe I'm exaggerating, but
no,
20 maybe. I mean, you think,
and it has nothing to do
Yeah,
with competence,
Yeah.
and I don't want it, just so you know, I'm not interested in the least, I'd say no, but because I have a different role, I can better do my thing
You're
without
good.
being, without being leader, okay?
You are good being there.
I don't want to,
to.
that's my role, and
Bringing it up.
that's my role, and, or how I see my role. But what I'd like to see is some sort of, informal rotation in leadership that would help us develop new leaders. And what that will also do is get interest, because the other weakness we have is we have no alternates. We have no alternates. And so there's another weakness. So we need to take care of these problems. And I think by having a rotation, it helps take care of that. Whether it starts this year, next year, I don't care. You know, like I said, you guys do a great job. And I just brought this up because in my head, I thought, how can we strengthen who we are as a board? We have a great board.
Yeah, we do.
Participation's great, you know, I mean, Jerry's not here right now. He does a great job. Kath does a great job. Igor does,
Yeah,
we all do
we
great
all
jobs,
do.
you know, we
We
all
all
have our
absolutely do.
bits. But anyway, that's one man's opinion.
And-
I'll shut up now.
The last meeting coming out 4-4 was, that is how balanced we are.
And that's okay. You know, that's why we're for the papers.
Anyway,
So, I think, this next year should really be focused on, making sure we remain rock solid and sharing the knowledge and wealth and responsibilities and everything. All of us, become equally informed and involved in everything.
that's very similar to the conversation that Bonnie and I had about making sure that we get connected to some of the external contacts that she has and start capturing some of her historical knowledge and getting it documented someplace where we'll be able to reference it if at some point she decides that she's had enough.
or if she's in Thailand and can't get back.
I got back 5 days before the earthquake.
But anyway, that's all I have to say. So, you know, food for thought. you
Yeah.
know.
Well, one thing I was gonna say that, like you said, the weakness, I think that the notion here is that there's a general weakness in this town because there's not enough people to run for any kind of offices.
They won't go. They won't.
Right.
People will
It
just
takes a
want,
lot of
want-
commitment.
people like to bitch, but nobody wants to
Volunteerism is
volunteer
gone.
and take our places.
Right.
volunteers.
That's
Yeah.
the problem, is that where are we heading in the future? You know, is this town going to survive or? No,
I think it's just this town.
No,
Yeah. Well, we saw that at a town meeting where out of all other people eligible to vote, 130 showed up.
But there are people, I mean, I don't know the players, the cast of players here as well as I do. But I mean, I see the same people at town meeting.
Oh, absolutely.
I see the same people who are voting, and I know who they are, and those are people who are interested in the future of the town. And, so there are people out there. But I think by having rotation in leadership, it will help encourage people to feel more welcome on a board than, you know, it's, this is Bonnie's
Yeah,
board. and she's
exactly.
control- And I, you know, no
Yeah,
disrespect
no,
intended,
no.
but you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
Because that if there's, you know, okay, so Igor's now the chair, it's just a different dynamic.
Yep,
You know, and,
and we
yeah, I
should,
threw that in there.
and we should, we should think,
Supervisors of the checklist, too. We got a lot going on here.
we
So,
should
but
think
anyway, you
about,
follow
yeah.
what I'm saying. I mean,
we should think about this in the rules of
Yeah.
procedure. We should
So, rules of
make
procedure, one
another,
other thing, just before I forget.
We don't want to overwhelm Igor, though, because he's about to be president of Rotary.
That's okay.
Thank you, Mark. I was just gonna tell him that, hey, listen, this is what my next year's gonna be
Well,
like.
like you said, it doesn't have to be this year.
No,
Like, it's
no,
something
no.
we have to start.
No,
We're not in any dire straits to do anything.
Yeah.
But it's something to think about.
Right.
But
And
really, because
why
I
don't
can
we-
just say with what's going on with Barbara, like I was running over to her house to try to learn how to do stuff because she was heading out. I was still an alternate, an assistant.
Right.
So I couldn't even get on the play site.
Right.
So I had to go work with her to try to figure out what I was gonna be doing.
Yeah.
You know, and that last minute doesn't make for an easy transition.
Yeah.
So we kind of sit there going, what do you think? I don't know. What do you think?
so let's, somebody vote that, while we're talking about the rules of procedure and making changes, that maybe if somebody wants to say, we rotate
2-year term.
2 years, 4 years, 3 years.
I think it's a 1-year term
1-year
still, but
term.
I think it's, I don't, maybe, no more than 2 consecutive,
Yeah,
year
or
terms.
something.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Somebody, why don't we add that to the list
Sure.
of, votes that we're
I
doing?
got one other, when you just brought that up.
And you're gonna be.
Yeah. He likes being,
Come on, team.
Yeah. Well, the loyal.
I don't mean it like that.
The loyal opposition.
That's right, and that's okay. That's good.
There, in our, I wrote it down here and I can't read my own. Oh, here it is. So the order of business in our rules of procedure, one of the things that we should put in there, number 8 is, adjournment. But number 8 should be, non-public if needed. We don't have that in our rules of procedure.
okay,
And then number 9 should be adjournment, Scott's favorite.
That's right. I was gonna say that.
So,
all right,
that's all. I just.
all right,
I'm done. I'll shut up.
okay.
It's fine.
Anything anybody else have?
No, motion to adjourn.
Motion to,
So are we not doing an election then, or?
Let's put it off till next month.
yeah,
Good, then we can all think about
We
it.
can all
Yeah.
digest it,
yep,
okay?
Okay. Works for me.
You've done a nice job on the summer, I tend to be upset.
She said you were well behaved.
No, I was on Zoom.
I know.
So I couldn't,
Judy won a prize.
they wouldn't let me talk.
Motion to adjourn.
No.
okay.
But why do
All in favor?
why do they give out, who wants a prize of a government center baseball? I mean,